Hello, everyone. This is the Crimson Cure, welcoming you to the Crimson Tower, a place where we keep a feminine foot on the neck of the gynocracy, feminism, and black male misandry. So go ahead, pull up a chair, stay a while, and listen.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special
Hey. How my Crimsonites doing today? How is everybody? Did you guys miss me? Because I missed you. Who we got? We got the MAW in my masters, Quentin. Hey, C. We got Jindar Mambo, J. Epps, Miss Georgia Peach, Kadir, Kalila, Sage of the Lotus, Malika, Ruminant, Miss Rita, Mrs. GF, Terenzo. Hey, thank you, Mrs. GF. Y'all missed me because I missed y'all. I was gonna do a live stream every day that I was on vacation, but when I saw how that Wi-Fi was about to go in and out, I'm like, nah, this not gonna work. I actually did have an amazing trip. I want to give a special shout to like my song, Great Britain. Thank you. So off top, just finished the masterpiece, Black Women Are Their Own God. Like Iblis denied Adam, but he was made of fire. They think they're better than us because they're placed in the doing. Exactly. Hey, Chano. Hey, Father's Time. Thank you so much, Great Britain. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I wanted to give y'all content, you know what I mean? Because I just didn't want to go dark. And I had brought all my equipment. I brought my laptop. I brought my microphone. I brought my stream deck. I brought my camera. The only thing I forgot was my fan. And I gave y'all that one stream. And I was like, yeah, it was barely supporting StreamYard. And I was like, oh. Okay, you barely stay connected. Oh. Hey, UFO. So the trip that we went, I ended up going to Charlotte, North Carolina. Said a fan was the masterpiece. Yeah. And basically it was a vacation, but it was also a game family meetup. Thank you, Chano. So the mother of the Black Manosphere has returned. Thank you, C. I gotta come see you. See, we're too close not to see each other. So at some point we're gonna have to do a quick little meetup. You know, coffee or something like that. Hey, Miss Sherry. So you're going to have to email me, sis, so we can get each other's contact information. And just, you know, I'm pretty much out, you know, doing an Uber or whatever. So, you know, one of these old mornings or something, it's like, okay, want to go, you know, get a cup of coffee or something like that. That'll be wonderful. Because I like meeting people. And we ended up meeting, hey Sandra, we ended up meeting with DS1 and the bishop and Ronan. And I have to say that those are three of the most genuine people that I have ever met. What you see is really what you get with them. It's not an internet act. It's not a channel persona. It's not any of those things. Walaikum assalam, Ami. Hey, Eugene. It's not any of those things. Those gentlemen were the most authentic men. And, you know, we're trying to gel as a team because we do business together. And they are fun loving, they're funny, they're genuine, they are professionals, they're masculine, and they're just all around good guys. They're all around good people. And there was a lot of enlightenment to go around as we connected with one another on a deeper level than just over the interweb, just over YouTube, or even just over the phone. And that's why I like getting into people's physical presence in their energy, because the energy doesn't lie. The energy doesn't lie. When you're, you know, kind of just over the YouTube, or you're just over the phone or whatever, people can kind of mask or shield what they're really about. But when you get into people's physical presence, when you get into their energy, that doesn't lie. You really can tell who people are. And the energy was so positive. It was so positive. Like, no one was in this little funky mood or having problems with one another, or, excuse me. One moment. Please forgive me. I think I got my eyeball straightened out. I think I got the old eyeball straightened out. Okay. Now it wants to itch again. Okay. You're going to have to stop interrupting my show. Okay. Yeah, it was really family. Like, I felt so comfortable. Like, those are really my brothers. They were super protective over me. Like, it was such an awesome feeling. Just to have that sort of camaraderie and all of that. So that's why I don't understand why women complain about the protection level of black men, because it's really off the charts. I have never had a problem being protected by the men that I happen to be around. There was just a mutual respect and a mutual concern and care for one another. It really made me bond with them more. I really see them as my family. I really see them as that. Ronan has so many layers. Like, y'all see the jokey side and the roasty side, but Ronan is a well. He's a deep well. The surface of it, very calm. It's just water. But as you go down, it's like, oh, I didn't know it was that deep. And just talking to him and getting those thoughts in his head. Bishop really is just a happy, positive person. He's really that person. Like he didn't stop smiling the whole time. And you could tell it wasn't a fake, phony, I'm just doing this because I'm with people. Like, no, you could tell that was his genuine personality, all of that. DS1, his authentic personality. He's an intense person. He's a very passionate person. But underneath that intensity is this really kind, almost shy. I don't know if you want me to say that, but there's almost a shyness to DS1. And it's really, really, really endearing. It's very endearing. So this is just one. Yeah, he's very reserved. That's a better word. Said interesting that came across a little on your Sunday morning streams with Ronan. Yeah, he's a deep well. Ronan is. You can get a good talk with Ronan, and he don't ask you them questions. It make you be like, wait a minute, I gotta rethink my whole life. Why he asked me that? Hey, Torian. So those are just my thoughts, just my little recap of the trip. I hope to take many more and come and see the rest of the A Game family. Come and see Evo Sosa. Come and see the Young Manhood channel. I'd love to see Dr. Michelle and Miss Sherry. I'd love to meet the whole A Game family. That would really be something. Yeah, I took a little vacation, Torian. You didn't miss my content? You supposed to miss me. Okay. So now that I got that out of the way. Are black women not allowed to be feminine? Because I've done streams videos about black women being afraid of their femininity to a certain extent, being afraid of masculinity when it's presented to them, and on more often than not, the women often will say, well, we're not able to be feminine. We would like to be more feminine as a group of women, but we are unable to be. Have you guys heard that? Have you guys also heard that as a reason being given for black women not being more feminine? Because I've heard that quite a few times, that they're not allowed. And sometimes they say it's one reason, sometimes another reason. But today we're going to kind of go through some of those reasons and see what's going on with those. So we got to think about if the majority of black women are saying that they are not allowed, or that there are blockers to them being more feminine. I've heard a couple of reasons here and there. So we got to think about what's stopping this process. They live in America with groups of other women. You're in the same society, under similar circumstances. I don't see why you can't be more feminine. So one of the things is they say society. Let's take a look at that. If society is stopping you from being feminine, it's got to be stopping you from doing other stuff as a woman. That would kind of be stand to reason. If the society is against or standing as a roadblock for black women to be feminine, then it must also be standing as a roadblock for women to achieve other things. Hey, my love is divine. I missed you too, sweetheart. We got feminism. We've got a gynocracy. We've got social justice. We've got all kinds of programs. Hey, Dr. Michelle. We've got all kinds of programs for women. We've got all types of programs for girls. We've got a civilized society. We live in a country that has not seen war on its own shores since what? The Civil War? We live in a country that has never been invaded by a foreign army in my lifetime or my parents' lifetimes. We live in a first world country. We have indoor plumbing. We have every modern convenience that you can think of. We have sufficient public education available, potable water, vehicles, freedom of movement. We do not live in places that restrict the mobility of women. As a point of fact, we live in a place that provides mobility for women specifically. When we take a look at the Goldman Sachs vow to spend $10 billion over the course of 10 years with black women, that is a boost specifically to female mobility and wealth. Now, that's what they said that we're going to do. We don't know if they're really going to do that in reality, but we're going with what they said. This was what, earlier this year, I believe. So if we're going to say that the society is stopping black women from being more feminine, then I would like the answer as to which part of society. They would go to racism and WS. We know that's the next go-to. That's the next stop on the deflection train. Next stop on the deflection train is racism and WS. But there's only one problem with saying that. Do you want to know what that problem is with saying that? That's stopping the women from being feminine? Want to know what's stopping that? What's the problem with saying that? Hey, Torrance, and thank you. See, the problem with them saying that is that racism and WS affects black men much more than it affects black women on a very practical day-to-day basis. Because, for example, one of the most blatant examples of this type of injustice occurring due to race, we see police interaction. But do the police interact more with black men or black women? And when they do interact, who's usually getting the short end of that stick? Black men are typically getting the shortest end of that stick imaginable. And that's just one way, one really super blatant, in your face kind of way that the racism and its offshoots affect black men more than it affects black women. And we know that that's the truth because black men don't call the police to resolve their issues, but black women do. And if you were not disproportionately being harassed by them or shot by them or killed by them or arrested by them, then you probably would feel okay calling the police because you figure 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the short end of that stick in that interaction. But black men don't typically call the police because specifically they are disproportionately killed, and it's likely not to go the way they think it's gonna go if they start calling the police to help them resolve their issues. Because black men know that whether or not you are a law-abiding citizen or you are involved in criminal activity, you're likely to receive the same exact treatment as any common criminal or worse by simply being a black man. But then there are other issues in this country that are coming out from the systemic racism, thank you, Clue, that disproportionately affect black men versus black women. What about lack of educational support? Black boys often experience high rates of being diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, or some other learning or cognitive disability. They are placed more than any other demographic of children into remedial classes, special education classes. They are held behind from progressing from one grade to the other. Basic reading and mathematical skills are lacking due to this lack of educational support. And basically, black boys from boyhood are told to just figure it out. And we meet you on the other end if you make it to the other end. They are disproportionately negatively affected by the school to prison pipeline situation. They are disproportionately incarcerated. They are given, whenever they are arrested and going to trial and charged, they are given stiffer charges and stiffer penalties more than any other demographic of man. Black women don't face this. She's looking at this on a much lower scale than black men in general. She's not being incarcerated more than her men or even at an equal pace She's not suffering from lack of educational support like the boys are. Because we've got all kinds of situations. We've got all kinds of programs. We've got all types of things that is actually designed to help black girls not become victims of their environments and to overcome the various obstacles that are presented to her through, because of her environment, especially if she happens to be living and raised in impoverished situations. Then you've got chronic joblessness. The homeless rate for black men exceeds the homeless rate for black women. And on top of that, there are little to no resources for men in general, black men specifically. If they do find themselves to be homeless, there are little to no resources available, including men's shelters that are there or even available at all to help men to re-enter back into society as a functional adult and not as an impoverished homeless adult. Where are the programs to help address male when they have behavioral issues and mental issues, mental health issues? No one addresses black male mental health issues. No one addresses the depression. No one addresses the suicidal thoughts. No one addresses any of these things that are going on with black men. No one cares. They are an invisible group of men when it comes to society at large. Not only about the incarceration, but the recidivism rate is extremely high for black men because there is no rehabilitation or rehabilitative programs that are designed to keep black men out of jail once they leave jail. Hey, House of Princess. How you doing? And thank you, sweetheart. The recidivism rate is extremely high because if jail is supposed to be a center not only of punishment but of rehabilitation, then they're failing when it comes to black men because black men always come out of jail into situations where they cannot find proper footing. So then they end up having to do whatever they got to do to make it, or their environment has not changed and they have to fall back into the same situation because the environment has not changed, or they have to enter back into the very environment that gave rise to them doing whatever they did to get in jail in the first place. So it becomes a vicious cycle for them. Hey, PD, and thank you. Said quiet as it's kept, jail is the only safety net black men have. And I can see that to a certain extent. And that's the sad part. Because it's often in jail where black men receive what little help they're going to, according for mental health and for shelter. A lot of times, and I touched on this before, a lot of times black men will commit a series of petty crimes just to get arrested, just so they can spend a few nights at the county jail, just so they can have at least somewhere marginally okay, better than the street, better than a sidewalk, better than under a viaduct, better than, in a tent city, better than wherever they were sleeping, just to have some type of shelter and get some type of little food that they're gonna get, for those few nights, few weeks, whatever it's going to be. Exactly, House of Princess. 3 hots and a cot. Like, regardless of the quality, is better than digging in the garbage to get it, or not getting it at all. Going days without any food, scrambling for water, scrambling to live, basically, being deprived of the most basic provisions of a human being in a first world country. Black women don't necessarily have to do that. They can have a baby to get out of extreme poverty, because they'll be able to get some type of government assistance. They'll be able to get some type of housing assistance. Why am I going over all of this stuff? Because when you hear black women say, well, we can't be in our femininity because of these different societal pressures, society not being constructed, quote unquote, for the advancement of black women, and also they pull the race card on it. But the reality, when we look at everything on the ground, black women are not being disproportionately negatively affected by whatever systemic racism exists still in this country. Thank you again, PDs at jail, shelter, healthcare, food, water, entertainment, or the streets. Exactly. And even though you have black men that'll say, okay, I can get 3 hots in a cot, it's still very dangerous. In the jails are worse than the prisons, from what I hear. The gangs are there. If you're not in any type of gang, you still have to assert your masculinity. You can't allow yourself to be punked, to be used. You can't allow yourself to be beaten. Okay? You can't allow yourself to be the R word. And you've got to be on a constant vigilance from both the other inmates and the COs. Black women aren't going through this at the rate that black men are. So if we want to say that there's systemic racism going on within the institutions of this country, I agree. But if you try to say that black women and black men are equally experiencing the brunt of it, that's a lie. That's a lie. It's a bold-faced lie. And then the other thing that they'll say, and I'm going to go back and forth to these things, but I just kind of want to lay out some of the reasons. The other big reason that a lot of black women give for their inability to become more feminine is the incompetence of black men. Black men don't build. Black men are incompetent. Black men are poor. Black men have this problem and that problem and this problem and that problem. And therefore, we as a group of women can't depend on them. So we are unable to rest in our femininity, even when we are in relationships with black men, because once we get into those relationships with black men, we can't rest in either, because he's so incompetent that we are busy raising and taking care of him rather than him taking care of us. So since we've got to take care of him, that makes us step into these masculine roles where we can't actually be more feminine, although we would prefer to be. This is all cap. All of it. The society thing, racism thing, the black male incompetence thing, all cap. And this is why I say, that it's all cap. Because Sojourner Truth said or asked a question that black women have echoed ever since. And that question has been, ain't I a woman too? Ain't I a woman too? Who was Sojourner Truth and subsequent black women who find empowerment in that statement or in that question, who are they posing that question to? And while we're thinking about who they pose that question to, may I request that I get more thumbs up, more likes. I've got 149 awesome Crimsonites. Can I get 149 awesome likes? I would really, really appreciate that. And thank you, Carissa, for the cash out. They asked that question to Dwight McManus. They are asking Dwight McManus for permission to be women, because they only intend to be women for him. Let's dissect the whole society thing. Black women joined in with Mrs. Dwight McManus to subvert and eventually subjugate black men, to step over her men. See, she wasn't just fighting for human rights, because during the time of the abolitionists, they were fighting not for civil rights. That came later. They were fighting for human rights. Black men were fighting to be viewed as a human being first. That supersedes civil rights, because civil rights are rights that people receive due to being full members of the society. Were black men viewed as full members of society? No. They were not even viewed as human beings. 3/5 was the limit. So black men were fighting to be viewed as completely human first, because human rights supersede civil rights. The women were included in that because black men have never thought of a way out without thinking about the women and the children. Remember when Ice Cube was on Cocktails for Hyenas? And they were like, well, what about black women? And he was confused for a moment because he was like, aren't you black? This is for black people? I include black women as black people? So I didn't make a separate thing for black women because I don't see black women as separate. I see them as one. We're one people. Why would it be separate? But black women have never seen themselves as the same as black men. Even on the plantation, black women saw themselves separately and better than black men. That continued after chattel slavery had been abolished. It continued through the suffragette movement, which was basically first wave feminism, through second wave feminism, and that was at the same time that human rights got changed into civil rights. And in that way, when you change civil rights to human rights, you can include in all this intersectionality. You can include white women, you can include black women, you can include the alphabet community, you can include a lot of things underneath the banner of civil rights. But you wouldn't have been able to include Mrs. McManus under human rights because she was already seen as his human counterpart. So we can't use society and racism as the barrier for black women being more feminine because black women fought for the masculine position. You can go ahead and blame your foremothers for that. Fought for it. Won it. Fought and won. Not still fighting. Fought and won. Won the right to run a gynocracy in the so-called community and run the community in the ground to the extent that it no longer is a community. Thank you, Ranger One. Said black men and women veterans have MC vet homeless shelters in Baltimore. Black men are fighting back to get their VA benefits, take care of spouses and families. Veteran preference helps mothers and spouses. Okay. And I'm 100% in support of black men getting that kind of support because everyone, you know, irrespective of race, can fall into that homeless category. All it is, listen, C19 proved that. C19 and the radical change of biology, culture, and environment all at once, we actually got to witness Biocultiron in action with C19 and the changes. The changes in the economy. Jobs that people thought were stable were not. And all that it took was a biological change to shift the culture and environment irreversibly. We're not going back. And there are people still very much feeling the effect. And more people are going to start feeling the effect as these moratoriums end and people begin to be put out of their homes. Thank you, Georgia P. says, funny how BWs want to be included in black men oppression, yet independent of their leadership, make it make sense. Exactly. Exactly. So black women fought. Hey, underrated. Black women fought for the ability to have this mobility throughout the society. Black women are some of the freest women in the whole world. As I mapped out before, we live in we live in the 21st century, and we live in a first world country. United States of America. We do not live in a third world country. There is not rampant a famine going on. For a lot of black women, C19 didn't really affect their living situations because they were already living on the bosom of the government anyway. If you were already getting government assistance, housing assistance, C-19 didn't bother you. You got the stimmies. They gave you extra for all them kids you file. You scam for PPP loans. C-19 actually was a boon for a lot of you, because you weren't working anyway. So you didn't lose your job. You didn't lose your place to stay. You didn't lose access to food. You didn't lose access to shelter. You didn't lose anything. You got to live exactly how you were living pre-C-19. Black men were the ones who died disproportionately. Why? This could tie into black male homelessness, having to be out in the streets in the elements. The black men who were incarcerated. It's filthy in there. Not taking any precautions about social distancing and all of that kind of stuff. So it spread like wildfire in the jails. Who's in the jails? Black men. Thank you, Mr. All Too Well. Thanks for your energy and time. I caught a live one. Thank you so much. So I'm trying to really find these barriers to femininity. Because didn't black women fight for all of this mobility? Didn't you fight for the right to go to school when and how you wanted? Didn't you fight for the right to have more income? They're much readily to hire you. This so-called racist society is much more willing to hire you than any black man. It's usually black women who are in middle management and other management positions. You fought for the right to stand on the neck of your man. So I'm failing to see what the problem is. If you fought for those things and then you have them, what's the issue? I think I know the issue. I think I know the issue. I think I know. Y'all want to know the epiphany I came to? Did you fight for all of that stuff and it made you masculine? Thank you again, Ranger One. So have you noticed when black men talk about the transition of World War II to civil rights, especially the Moynihan report in 1965, gynocrats and feminists get scared or play dumb? Oh yeah. They play dumb about that. They don't know nothing about the Moynihan report, quote unquote. Thank you, Ruben and Melanoy. Said BWs are the queens of human resources, jobs and control of who gets hired. Guess who they keep out? Exactly. There's always a black woman in charge somewhere in the human resources department, somewhere in the hiring process. She's a manager somewhere. She's got to say somewhere. And when black men come up to get these jobs and a black woman comes up to get the same job, guess who's going to get that job? I don't care who's qualified and who isn't. See, black women believe in nepotism, but only towards other black women. So now we got to admit that all of the stuff that you fought for made you a bootleg man. Then you want to sit around and talk about you don't know nobody that's masculine like that. You. I'm talking to the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. No message should have come any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, better look at yourself and then make a change. Talk to the man in the mirror. Talk to the little pseudo bootleg man in the mirror. So we got to admit that you pursued a manly pursuit. And you perpetuate that pursuit because you teach your daughter to do the exact same things that you do. You teach all of the girls to do the exact same thing that you do, knowing that you fail because, like I said before, it's all fun and games until you get a little older and you realize you can't get the kind of man you really want because you're too masculine. Then you want to sit around and blame black men because they won't let you be women because they're quote unquote incompetent, but you fought for the right and you continue to perpetuate to raise the kind of man that would let a woman rule over him like that. You purposely raise the very men that you say are incompetent because you're selfish. As his mother, you want complete ownership and rulership over him even into his adult age. What you don't think about is he's going to be the man to some other woman and she's not going to like him because he's a mama's boy. And he's a maggle. And he's a simp. And he doesn't have leadership skills. And he defers to women all the time. You raise them and then you pawn them off into society so the rest of the women and you can complain about who he is. Right, Chano. Said Q Khalees, I'm bossy. Exactly, Georgia. I'm bossy. I'm the one y'all love to hate. Like, what, you know? Who run the world? Girls. Who run the world? Girls. They filled y'all head up with that craziness. You fought for the right to be domineering over your men and to take care of him like a little boy for the rest of his life. Then you get mad. I don't want to build no man. Yes, you do. Because all you do is churn out those types of men. And when a black man decides for himself that he isn't going to do that, that's not who he's going to be. He's going to actually be a man. Thank you, Expansion, for the cash out. He's actually going to be a man that asserts his masculinity. Now all of a sudden he's controlling and he's a narcissist. So black women who want to be feminine, according to the gynocracy, are all pick-me's and mammies. But the black men who decide to be masculine are all narcissists. When he comes to assert his leadership, and he controlling. Girl, you ain't got to do what he say. I'm grown. You ain't none of my daddy. I don't got to listen to nothing you say. Who you think you is talking to me like that? That's why little man ain't even none of yours. So you like this type of situation and you look for it. So then you come around and talking about, I can't rest in my femininity. You can't rest in your femininity because you don't want to. Are black women not allowed to be feminine? Not as long as you study somewhere asking the question, am I a woman too? Ain't I a woman too? You in 2021 talking about ain't I a woman too? To Dwight McManus. And he does not allow you to be feminine. He don't allow you to be feminine because he gave you feminism. He gave you the gynocracy. That's what he gave you because he knew it would put you in a perpetual state of being masculine and being unfulfilled as women and being conflicted because that little part of you actually does want to be feminine because it's part of your nature and you can't completely fight that. You've never been so miserable as you are today with more freedom than your foremothers ever had. So when you want to know why you keep being the masculine little hamster on the hamster wheel, look at Dwight McManus and his system of feminism that you love so much. Look at that because that's the culprit. That's what keeps you masculine, not black men. And even when you realize that that's what's going on, you still prefer this masculine space because it allowed you to stand on your men rather than the feminine space and take place in the balance of nature because you'll die before you see a black man leading anything. You'll literally pass away before you're willing to see a black man actually rebuild the community. Thank you, Vernon. So I need all of the hyenas, all of the gynocrats to ask themselves, why can't I be feminine? Because you pursued a whole life as a fake bootleg man. And you like it. Thank you, Zahira. Walaikum salam. So Islam allows us to be feminine because we obey Allah. Would you agree? Exactly. We have understood our position as women. See, that's all it really takes to be feminine. All that it takes to be feminine is not all of this environmental change. You don't need a bioculturon in terms of the greater society to be feminine. All you need is the transformative effect of bioculturon for you. Once you accept your position as a woman, boom, femininity. I didn't have to do any other special work. The only thing I had to do was understand that feminism was not anything that served me as a woman. Only me being a woman served me as a woman. Once I healed from my past traumas, healed from all of the different things that had gone on with me and that negatively affected me. Then I could build what? Build my womanhood, build my femininity. I had to heal before I built anything. Shout out to Sheep Stay Sleep. This is why I speak so much about the 10 life values. And more specifically, when I'm talking to women, when I'm talking to women more specifically, I talk about the internal 5. The spiritual value, the health value, family, appearance, and dwelling value, because these are our wheelhouses. These are our wheelhouses. This is where you're going to find not only the healing, but where your true place as a woman is. So again, when you think about why I can't be a woman, because you don't want to be. Why I can't be feminine, because you don't like it. It's a super simple answer. You don't want to be feminine. That's why you're not. That's why you find it so difficult. Because things that you want to do, you overcome every obstacle in order to do that thing. You fought for this. And I need all of the gynocrats to keep the same energy. You fought for this. So I don't want to hear any complaining about what black men are and aren't doing, what they can and can't do, what they will or won't do. I don't want to hear all of that because it's irrelevant. You fought to receive the position that you received, and you have it. So now you should shut up. Now all you've got to do is shut your mouth and live happily ever after. But there's no fulfillment in it, is it? That's your problem. That's a personal problem. You wanted to be a gynocrat? Here it is. These are the breaks. These are the things that go on when you're a gynocrat. I want you to not only like it, but love it. Thank you once again, Ranger One. So the gynocrats try to put a 10-year limit on the veteran preference in the U.S. government. It was defeated. BGS Ibmore said, in these days, black women are trying to be black men freeing for resources. I see this in the VA hospitals where I work. Yeah, a gynocrat would do anything to survive. It's like a weed. But that's kind of why we refer to them as hyenas, because hyenas do anything to survive. They are scavengers. Can they hunt? Yeah, but they rather scavenge off the work of somebody else. So I need all of the gynocrats, especially the ones that come here to hear this word. I need you to think about exactly why. It's very easy to point the finger at black men, but are you or are you not an adult? That's the next question. Are you grown? Then if the answer is yes, the next question, are you competent? All of y'all want to be bad bees and bosses and queens, so I assume the second answer is going to be yes. So you're grown and you're competent. Yes, yes. So then the third thing is, well, then if you're grown and you're competent, aren't you responsible for your own actions? Correct? Because you can't be grown and competent and then somebody else is responsible for your actions. Doesn't fit. Doesn't work. The only time someone else is responsible for your actions is when you are not an adult and you are not competent. So I just wanted to come to you guys today, have this conversation with you, and basically answer that question. Are you not allowed to be feminine? No, you are not. Why? Because the system you serve doesn't let you be feminine because it groomed you to be masculine, i.e. feminism and the gynocracy. Doesn't have anything to do with black men. You chose that so you can have power over black men. And so to a certain degree you do. Because you have power over the boys that you raise. Correct? Right. And I have not done this in a few days. So I'm happy to present that this show has been brought to you by A-Game, a male herbal solution with 21 awesome herbs that addresses a man's overall health by addressing his blood circulation and his blood flow, which affects his vitality, his strength, his mental energy, and his libido. So for guys, if you want to be part of the A-Game family, and ladies, if you want your man to be part of the A-Game family, it's a super simple thing. All you have to do is go into my description box, scroll down, click the link for A-Game at agameherbal.com, and use the code Kendra10, Kendra, the number 10, to receive a 10% discount off of your next purchase, and you can have your order of A-Game coming to you ASAP. All right. Thank everyone for coming through, for the cash apps, for the super chats, for the wonderful conversation. Thank you to my mods for keeping the chat room clear for me. Greatly appreciated. Appreciated everyone's, interaction. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye, Crimsonites. Hey guys, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And if you've got more to say on the topic, leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to support our sponsor, who so graciously supports this channel by clicking the description box and the link for A-Game at agameherbal.com. You can go ahead and get a 10% discount off of your next purchase using the code Kendra10. This has been yet another Crimson Cure production, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.